Hi, everybody. It's your friend Moonhorse here. I almost choked for a second there. I'm fine. Don't worry about me. Oh, shit. This is actually a super late recording. I am sorry that the podcast is so late. It was supposed to be released on Wednesday. Well, first Monday, and then it was going to be Wednesday. Shit just kept happening. So, yeah, it's just, there's like a whole thing, and I don't know, guys. It just got really dumb. So I'm sorry for that. I am here, however, I'm actually looking some stuff up right now, to talk to you guys just in a general podcasty way. Because that is basically what we're doing, and I'm saying it like that because I'm obviously stalling for time, because I'm clicking a lot of stuff. I know, I'm really good at this. Where the fuck? I just had it the other day. I had a thing, and now I can't find it. So, give me a second, I'm still looking for it. Yeah, no, that's not it. Okay. Whatever, doesn't matter. I found it on this one. I was looking for the poll that we did the other day. The community poll. And to double check my comments and whatnot. So, I would like to point out that there are two things here on this community poll. So basically the poll was, I don't know exactly if it's going to be every Monday, but we're going to try to maybe once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks, I don't exactly know, come out with a podcast like this. So, we're going to basically talk about things like this. And you guys I'm going to give you topics, and sometimes I'll stick with one topic, sometimes it'll be one topic and maybe part of the next highest topic, depending on what we have to talk about. So, for tonight, it is just me. I am here. Hello. And the winning topic of this podcast is my personal experience with neckbeards. So, more specifically, personal stories, as in neckbeards I knew personally. And there were a few. So, I guess we can talk, let's see, where would you even start? Do we start with just, like, the chronological order in which I met them, or do I start with this? Let's start with how I learned what a neckbeard is, because it's not a long story, and then we'll go back to, like, how everything else. So I learned about neckbeards through Reddit. I found the neckbeard subreddit because somebody I think it was a YouTube comments, referred to somebody else as a fucking neckbeard, and I thought it was a funny word, so I googled it, and the subreddit came up, the original Neckbeard Stories subreddit, before it got shut down. And I realized after reading a bunch of stories about neckbeards that, holy shit, I knew like 5 of them. So, I don't think that's an accurate number, but I did know a few. So I submitted my own stories, and stories eventually turned into my own subreddit, my own writings, podcast, and then everything else that came to this. Now we're here. Now, all that being said, we're going to tell the tales of neckbeardery. And they are a long and storied tale, and everyone I know, more or less, has at least one neckbeard story. That doesn't mean everyone in the world. That means literally everybody I know personally. I have some. Sango has some. Bubs has some. I'm pretty sure I know a couple other people who also have some. But let's go way back to the beginning. To a much, much younger Moonhorse. When I was but a wee lad in junior high. A very... what's the word I'm looking for? Not... I guess awkward's a good one. Awkward's a good one. It doesn't feel 100% accurate, but yeah, I was kind of a awkward, not in their own headspace preteen. You know that guy, you know the one who's like wearing shirts that are obviously hand-me-downs, but not because they have a bunch of family members, but because they don't actually have any kind of style defined for themselves. the kind of person who gets, like, any kind of fashion, any kind of clothes, whatever, is given to them by, what do you call it? By, like, holidays. Their family members and stuff on holidays. Don't really have a lot of friends. None of their clothes ever seem to match. Everything's just kind of a hodgepodge of whatever. And they never seem comfortable even in their own skin. Yeah, that was me. When I was a preteen, it was all just, everything was not cool. Everything just kind of sucked. I was really completely thrown out of my element when I went into junior high, because I was at a different school before I went into the one that I went into, and the one I went into was, a lot of the people in that school basically knew each other from, what do you call it, from, like, elementary school. That's what I'm looking for. And I didn't. So I really only knew, like, one person maybe, and I didn't even really know them that well. And so, after being there, I eventually started meeting a few other people. That is where I met Bubs, but it wasn't until much later that I actually met my first full-on neckbeard. Now, the reason I had to go all the way back to junior high to tell you that about Bubs is because we met the same guy. Bubs met him many years earlier, but then eventually we were in high school. I met this guy, and I had no idea that he was, like, you know, neckbeardy. He was, like, super like that. Of course, when I mean, there may have been a term for it when I was a teenager, but fuck all if I knew that. So, yeah, so there was this guy, and let's see, every neckbeard needs a name. Let's call him Braggerbeard. Braggerbeard's big thing was he was the best of everything, all the time, to the point that he was basically just a pathological liar. He would make shit up in order to seem better than everybody else. So, Braggerbeard's big thing is he honestly kind of embodied the whole neckbeard nice guy mentality before I knew that that was a thing. So I wouldn't say he was a proto neckbeard, because I'm fairly certain this mentality already existed by the time, you know, we came around. It's just, it wasn't very prevalent in the areas that I was. So, you know, that doesn't make him like a, you know, the beginning or anything like that. Like, no, he was just the most prevalent one in the area where I was. So, that being said, Braggerbeard, let's see if I can describe him. Braggerbeard had one of those haircuts that you know was probably done by, like, it was probably a bowl cut, but it was so messy and, like, went in so many directions that you honestly couldn't tell. I would be surprised if he ever brushed his hair. He was about, I'd have to say about 5'5", and in high school was, like, probably almost 280, almost 300 pounds. He didn't have the neck beard per se, but there was a lot of, like, beginnings of beard, you know? The fedora was very strong. And Braggerbeard's big thing was we had this little friend group that we kind of built out of knowing each other, and he was super fucking, like, intent on making sure that he controlled everything that was said in this friend group. He was very, very controlling, and in those days, I guess it's kind of the same thing now with a lot of neckbeards, but in those days, neckbeards were very, they had their own cliques. I guess they still do, but I don't know, I'm not in high school, I don't know this shit. The idea of a lot of them being obsessed with anime is a thing, but I do know some that aren't. And Braggerbeard absolutely was. So much so that anything outside of, like, what he deemed cool when it came to anime stuff was just, like, the worst. Nobody else knew what was cool except for him. And so, high school was, like, a weird, tumultuous time because of this particular neckbeard. I didn't meet others until a little bit later. But Braggerbeard was like super, as I said, he was super controlling, and he really, really hated it when Bubs and I started discovering things like punk rock and death metal and all this other stuff, and pulling away from this group because our lives were not completely subsisted on anime soundtracks and waifus. We started finding entirely different groups that we started to fit in with, and the two of us started pulling away roughly around the same time, so we kind of became closer friends with each other than we did over Braggerbeard and some of the other people that he knew. So there was also... Braggerbeard had the obsession with the different anime girls, but he also had an actual real-life waifu obsession. There was this girl he had this huge thing for. And usually, in a Neckbeard story, you hear, like, okay, he has a thing for this girl, she doesn't even know he exists, and then he says something that gets really creepy. No, to your children, this is actually much stranger. See, he had a thing for this girl, and she not only knew he existed, she knew he had a thing for her. And on more than one occasion, actively started showing interest in him being in a relationship with her. She basically had, on multiple occasions, split up with this guy that she had been dating. They did not have a good relationship, from what I could tell. And there was a lot of infighting and stuff like that. So they would split up, get back together, split up, get back together. On more than one occasion, she had indicated that if Braggerbeard would just ask her out, she would never think about going back to this other guy again. She wanted to be with him, but he was so weird about it. He was so, not wanting to commit for some reason that he just never would. This went on the entire time I knew him, so this was almost 6-7 years that this went on, and he never fucking acted on it. Ever. I have no idea what that was about. I have no idea why. It was super weird. I was very confused, and I still to this day am. I have no idea what that was about. But I do have some suspicions. See, it wasn't until many years later that Braggerbeard and I had this huge falling out, and we don't speak anymore. For a relatively good reason. See, Braggerbeard had gotten himself a new girlfriend and was convinced that I was interested in his girlfriend. Okay, two things. One, I'm not. Never was. Wasn't then. Was already with somebody, so that really wasn't a thing. And two, the other reason I was absolutely not interested in his girlfriend is because Braggerbeard was 19 and his girlfriend was 16. Yeah, that would be the moment I quit talking to him, because I could hear the police sirens from a fucking distance. So I distanced myself from that whole situation as fast as humanly possible. Just no, not fucking getting involved in this shit. Goodbye. Granted, there probably were actions I could have done, like call the police myself, but I was also 21, 22. You're stupid. It happens. Especially when you're a kid. And I know, a lot of people will be like, but you're 21, you're not a kid. Yeah, you kind of are, though. You kind of are. So, that's, yeah. It's just not a whole thing. And he had a lot of issues like that, where he would just straight up lie to people, and then when people would catch him in a lie, he would explode and pretend like it was never his fault, when he was the one lying. And yeah, so apparently my working theory, is the reason why Braggerbeard never hooked up with the girl who actually wanted him is because she may have been a little too old for his tastes. Which is super fucking creepy. I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong. I hope that that's not the case. But given everything that kind of happened, I don't know that. So all I can do is speculate, and speculating isn't really getting anywhere, so I'm just going to drop that right there. Now, that's only one neckbeard, though. So I'm going to skip around a little in chronological order, because the mother of them all is right near the end. And it also has the best ending. Kinda. So, then there was this other guy who I hesitate to say neckbeard because he kind of had that, but mostly with something else. But this kind of fits the neckbeard thing, so I'm going to go ahead and tell this story anyway because it kind of fits in the whole motif. So, there was this guy I met not long after we left the town where I grew up. From Thibodeau, we moved further north. And I don't like it, but we were there, and I eventually met a ex-friend, shall we say. Another neckbeardy type guy who really wasn't, like I said, really isn't 100% that, but we'll just refer to him as the guitar guy, because he was one of those. And if you don't know that one, oh, that's a special one. So the guitar guy is a guy, obviously, but it's not necessarily just a man. The guitar guy can be any gender. The guitar guy is the person who has recently learned that playing certain instruments makes you attractive. In their mind, it makes you super attractive. And has decided that on every possible and conceivable, moment, event, stage, anywhere they can put themselves out, they are going to perform because they think it makes them the most attractive, person to ever live. The problems with the guitar guy are multiple fold, but one of them is they're not nearly as good as their ego says they are. And the other one is that a lot of them tend to play, to borrow a term from a music reviewer, Todd in the Shadows likes to refer to them as, I think they're wigwags, white guy with acoustic guitar songs. So they're all, really deep and emotional. But they only use, the 4-chord progression so you can keep making eye contact with people to say how deep and emotional your music is. Yeah. I knew him because we started playing music around the same time. So I started learning how to play guitar roughly around the same time he did. His entire thing is that he was going to be the guitar guy. He wanted to only play acoustic guitars because those are the ones that are always paired with the most emotional and, deep songs, and that made the girls like him. I decided that acoustic guitar is what I started with. Eventually, I graduated to an electric guitar because I need something louder, angrier, and filled with more power. His big thing was he would be able to play covers of Wonderwall while appearing very deep to girls who were very disinterested in him at parties. My thing is, if the fucking speaker isn't on fire, you're not doing your job. So, we had a very different opinion when it came to music. We had a very different path. Now, I tell you stories about him. I was going to say rebuke, but that's the wrong word. I basically tell you these stories. What's the word? It starts with an R, and it's about, recite. I recite to you these tales. There's the word I'm looking for. I got it. I'm not stupid, except when I am. So, I recite to you these tales because on one occasion I had to bring the guitar guy to a party. And yes, he brought his guitar. And yes, it was possibly the cringiest thing I have ever seen. So, it doesn't help that I was basically living in the middle of fucking nowhere where stupid shit just happens nonstop. We get to this party, and it's a bunch of people I don't even know, but he knows, so therefore I have to be there, not because he's trying to be a good friend and you'll meet my friends and you'll be cool. No, I was there because he couldn't drive, and none of his friends wanted to pick him up. Hint, it's because they weren't really his friends. Yeah, he kind of showed up to this party, and I don't think he was really invited, especially given the looks that he was given, and especially when he decided to start playing his guitar all emotionally. I thought it was really fucking weird, and I remember in this house that we're in this living room, where living room, I don't know, we came in, there's a fireplace or something, and he's using this as his grand stage to play his acoustic melodies to seduce the miladies. And I remember sitting on the stairs, which were like across the room, watching this nonsense, like, what the actual fuck? And there's this guy, I guess he was like friends with the guy who hosted the party or whatever, and he stops on the stairs and is looking at this as well, and he's like, do you know him? And I was like, yeah, I guess. And he's like, does he always do that? And I was like, do you mean the music thing? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, I don't know, man, this is the first party I've ever been to him with. I really don't know him that well. And he was like, it's kind of painful to watch, isn't it? I said, yeah, but it's kind of like a car accident, you just can't look away. So yeah, he attempted to woo all the miladies with his melodious melodies, and it didn't really work. It was bad. So eventually we packed up everything and went back. He was mad because he kept saying that somehow I had cramped his style the entire night, despite the fact that I basically didn't speak to him. So, I don't know, I guess that was somehow my fault. Whatever. He did that kind of shit all the time, though. If something went the way he planned it, it was his brilliant plan. If something failed in the way that he planned it, it was everybody else's fault but his. I remember one other story about the guitar guy is when... Now, we were both in, like, high school, like, last couple years of high school, if I'm not mistaken. And he had started getting in with this more popular crowd or whatever, which, I don't give a fuck. You're friends with whoever you're friends with. It doesn't matter to me. But I remember specifically he had me come over to his house because he needed something done. Some stupid thing he needed help with. And then immediately was just like, okay, that's done. Well, I'll see you later. And I was like, dude, I've been here 10 minutes. Like, what the fuck? And yeah, it's because whoever this girl was, she was his partner for some kind of project that they were working on, and she was coming over to his house, which I guess that meant that I was not supposed to be seen, because that's literally what happened. Is he was just like, no, you have to leave. You have to leave before she gets here. She can't see that you're here. Because apparently even knowing me was so horrible that, like, I had to be thrown off the property. That's Guitar Guy. That's the kind of person he was. And I was just like, whatever, man. That was the last time I spoke to him. It was just like, you're a fucking asshole. That was pretty shit, man. Like, I get it. Okay, you're trying to impress this girl, but if you're literally gonna be like, you can't meet any of my friends because I have to, like, cut all out of my friendships because of this, it's like, you're just a prick, dude. You're just a prick who wants to get laid. Like, fuck off. I don't need this shit in my life, man. So there's that. And now we reach the penultimate story. Let me tell you about someone who I knew a long time ago. I actually met him through Guitar Guy. Every neckbeard needs his name. I almost said story. Every neckbeard needs a name, and I'm trying to think of a creative, good name for him. I'm gonna call him the Writer. Because when I first met him, he wrote a lot of very, very weird fanfiction. So the Writer was somebody that Guitar Guy knew because I think they went to the same classes or school when they were much younger. I don't know. I know we didn't go to the same high school because I never even recognized the guy. But it was at some point that I got introduced to him. And it turned out that where I was living at the time, he was like nearby, I think like 2 blocks down or some shit like that. I don't even remember exactly. Doesn't matter. Point is, that he was nearby, and I thought, oh cool, made a new friend. And eventually I started hanging out with this guy because I really didn't have a lot of friends, so I kind of hung out with whoever would hang out with me. And I began to hear the many, many sordid tales of the writer. So he was stereotypical angry nerd neckbeard to the fucking T. He was mad at everything for not being able to get laid. He had an obsession with someone who didn't know who even existed. He wrote mountains of anime fan fiction, and they were all ship fictions, and yes, he had his own OC Do Not Steal. And yeah, it was really, really weird. There was a lot of, like, he had this obsession with Inuyasha, more specifically the girl in the schoolgirl uniform from the anime. He totally wanted to bang her, and it was really weird. He really liked things like that. Like, he would get hooked on this anime, and that was, like, the only thing he would focus on for, like, months and months and months. He would play video games obsessively, to the point that, like, when he was in high school, his parents would have to hide the controllers for his game consoles from him, otherwise he just would not do schoolwork. And I would hear constantly about how how much of a horrible person they all are because, you know, they hit his controllers. How dare they? And yeah, there is a lot of that. On more than one occasion, I would have to fix his computer. Like, as we got older, I would end up fixing his computers because he would download viruses, because he would be downloading all these Japanese porn games, and of course they're filled with fucking viruses, because that's how some people do, and they fucked up his computer, and he would get mad because I'd have to delete them, and it's like, well, dude, that's literally the reason you're having trouble with this. So, yeah, there was a lot of that. I wish I could tell you I had copies of his many, many, many fan fictions, but I don't. I used to. Back in the day, I actually used to know where he kept them. I knew a bunch of stories. I knew where he'd posted them. But no, they're quite gone now. And I honestly am very sad about that, because I kind of wish that I still had them. They were pretty much exactly what you expect cringy anime fan fiction to be about. There was all kinds of different animes, just like World of Warcraft stuff. There's just all kinds of shit. Yeah, so that was a thing, and he also wrote fanfiction about the girl in school that he was obsessed with. He was the first, like, it wasn't until years later that I watched, Bob's Burgers, and I heard about Tina writing erotic friend fiction, which is fan fiction you write about people you actually know, that I was like, oh my god, I knew a guy who used to do that like 20 years before this show came out. Which is really fucked up. But yeah, that was a thing, and it was super weird. There was a lot of, like, you know, and then she leaves her boyfriend for me, and I'm the best boyfriend ever, and that kind of shit. I remember some of his Inuyasha fanfics. He was like King Badass, who is like always somehow, you know, there's always that thing about, like, in bad anime fanfiction, it was like, and then he's related to the main character. It's like, yeah, he's his other brother or something, the one we don't hear about, you know. And he totally is just, like, so badass that, like, the anime girls are all just like, ooh, senpai. And yeah, that's just a thing. There was also, like, I forget what other animes there were, but I remember specifically a story about him being obsessed with some cat girl that he wanted to save her from bad guys or something, and, like, his character's so badass he destroys, like, an entire city block to do it. Which, okay, calm down, fucking, you know, Cold Steel the Hedgehog. Nothing personnel, kid. So, I don't know, man. This whole thing was fucking ridiculous. And yeah, it was like a living meme. It was just really fucking strange, and as he got older, he basically just became a straight up incel. Like, is always talking about how, you know, the feminism's destroying everything, except that all of his reasonings behind feminism destroying everything are so illogical that they don't actually add up to anything and they don't work. It's just kind of amazing that, like, that's his fucking thing. I want to give you guys an example because it's like, okay, so he specifically said that, how can I put this? He specifically said that feminism was destroying the video game culture, and I really hate the phrase video game culture, but he specifically said feminism's destroying the video game culture because they got Grand Theft Auto 5, I think is the new one, whatever, new, quote-unquote, banned from Target, and it's like, what? And I pushed him on this because I was like, no, dude, I was in Target the other day and they still had it. And he's like, well, no, I mean, like, in Australia. And it's like, so what you're saying is that people got upset about stuff that happened in this game, and a corporation who realizes that these people have money stopped selling the game so they could make more money off of the people who are outraged by it, because that's what businesses do. I don't see how that's feminism's fault. That sounds more like Target basically exploiting a situation where a bunch of people got mad. Capitalism, whatever. But yeah, like, that's, he would say shit like that, and whenever I would point out, like, no, that's, of course Target did that. Target wants their money. Target, like many corporations, does not care about the issues of, you know, let's just use women for example, but they don't care about the issues of women. But what they do care is that women have money, and they want that money. That's all they fucking care about. That's the reason why, like, a bunch of corporations are just like, all of a sudden, we support Pride. And it's like, yeah, because you realize gay people have money. And you want the money. It's like, no fucking shit, man. That's how corporations work. They'll support anything if it gets them $1. Like, what the fuck? This has nothing to do with feminism. This has everything to do with they want that fucking money, yo. So, anytime I hear him talk about that, anytime he says shit like that, all I can imagine is, like, fucking, like, that fucking, what you call it, that picture with, oh, what's his name? The actor, I can't think of his name now. You know, what's up, my fellow children? Like, yeah, that's corporations. Anytime that shit comes up, and it's just like, feminists think that Grand Theft Auto is 5, and then we have fucking Target come out as, oh yes, my fellow feminists, I as well as angered by the patriarchy. Like, they don't fucking care, they want the money. But he gets really fucking mad when you explain that. Like, when you explain that his logic is flawed, he gets super pissed about it. And it's just like, you don't fucking know, bro. It's like, he spends way too much time on incel forums. And it's just, like, mad about shit that has nothing to do with anything. And I specifically, at one point, I think I threw him because I guess he doesn't expect anyone else that he knows to know about the shit that he knows. He made some joke about, like, not wanting to go to some store in the mall, and he actually said, like, 'cause it's full of normies. And I fucking looked at him and was like, you gonna read about it? It's like, dude, stop. It's fucking terrible. But yeah, he's drifting more and more into the incel zone, and that worries me, because it's like, you have no reason to act like this. There's just, you gotta stop this nonsense, my dude. You gotta stop. It's time to stop. But yes, that is, that is some of the neckbeardery that I do know of. And that is actually a good segue, because we're still not out of time with this podcast. I mean, we could be, but fuck it, I don't want to. For the second, what do you call it? The second part of this little extravaganza into pure madness, which is incels and their mentality. Now, let me peruse some of the comments here. I have been told that you guys really like my neckbeard and nice guy voices. That the ladies think they're quite charming. I will admit that I'm unnaturally good at doing that, and it's not a talent I should be proud of, but it is one I'm proud of. So, yes, I have seen your votes, and there are a lot of them, but incels, oh lord, the incels. I don't have a huge amount of experience with incels, but I have seen the things they say, the things they do, and the things that they consider fantastic and so on, and I will admit that that does not sit well with me. The incel stuff worries me. It's a bunch of people basically... I mean, there's really not much to say about it, and I probably won't go on about this for too long, but it just seems like it's a bunch of people who are really upset about not being able to get something that they perceive as a completion to a part of their life, and are therefore instead going to harp on it and get really, really angry. They've dedicated their lives to being incredibly angry about these sort of things. I personally don't entirely understand that. Of course, I don't understand the human and the need to make more humans. They are very obsessed with everything sexual. I mean, they'll say they're not, but yeah, no. I've read the post. Like, that's a lot of obsession, a lot of negativity, but a lot of obsession. And it's like, I'm not the best person to like say too much about them, because I will say certain things. I do judge horrible things as horrible, but when it comes to like this desire for, you know, sexual gratification, I don't entirely understand that. Like, I don't know. Okay, let's get weirdly personal with Moonhorse for a minute. I have an incredibly low sex drive. That's just, yeah. I don't know why. Always have. It's never bothered me, though. That's the thing, is like, I know a lot of people who do, and they don't like that. I do, and it's just kind of, alright. You know, I don't think about it. It's not a thing that really is a focus. So I don't really feel like any need to correct it or do anything like that, or feel like I'm not doing enough or whatever. And it's like, no, it's just whatever. It's just who I am. I don't care. So the reason I bring that up is because I cannot speak 110% with accuracy on incels and their need for validation through sexual conquest, because I don't understand the need for it. Like, I know what it does, but I don't get certain things. I don't know. Maybe that's why I'm a unicorn from the moon. I don't understand you biological creatures and your need to shoot goo at each other to reproduce. It's very strange. But I'm happy that you like me. I don't understand the human, but I like the human. So, yeah, I can't really speak too much on that front. However, I can say that, like, there are a lot of really toxic, really horrific posts, and again, these things do not apply to everyone. There is no such thing as a universal standard for everything. You know, unless it's, like, specific hardware. But this isn't that. These are people. So, yeah, I think the obsession with sex and all this other stuff is a need for validation. A lot of this, I honestly, as weird as it is, can contribute to what I know about Chris Chan, of all people. So, to draw a parallel, let's do that. First, you'll need a pencil and a piece of paper. Haha, I'm funny. No, to draw this parallel, Chris, for the longest time, equated happiness in his life with finding a true sweetheart, which basically meant just fucking. Because anytime he started dating, quote unquote, even when it's like trolls or whatever who are messing with him, it was always sexual. It was always very sexual, and it got really weirdly sexual with a very heavy emphasis on them being physically intimate as soon as possible. Because honestly, in Chris's mind, he equates sex with happiness. So if he got laid, therefore he is a complete and full person, and therefore his validation of who he is complete. Except that we know that that is not true. And the parallel I draw to this when it comes to like incels is I see that a lot in a lot of incels as well. I see that a lot in their behavior and in their speech patterns, this anger, which then leads to self-loathing, which leads to more anger, which leads to self-loathing. And there's a lot of like, well, we're doing this as jokes, and it's like, so I'm not gonna go into what is wrong with that statement. I'm instead going to draw yet another parallel to help you understand. The terrible things we say are jokes. That's the statement. So here's the parallel I want to draw to that. When I was in the depths of my depression, the worst parts of my depression, I would make jokes, and a lot of them were self-deprecating. A lot of them were like, really, like, horrible. There were a lot of like destroying the self. Like, oh, it'd be better if I wasn't around, haha. A lot of like obvious hints that I was not okay, but I was expressing this through comedy because it was one of the only ways I knew how to express myself. It didn't make those jokes funny, and in a lot of cases, a lot of people didn't find them funny, but that's kind of what I was trying to say through my depression. Now, I don't really have that anymore. Nowadays, whenever I make a joke, like, I don't have any friends, I usually say it with like a stupid voice, because it's really obvious that like that's not true. I have you guys are my friends, and I talk to you all the time, so obviously I have friends, and I'm not really that depressed anymore. But having lived through that, I can recognize it whenever somebody else does that. So when these guys make quote-unquote jokes like that are all like self-deprecating and basically locking out all this other stuff and creating this incredibly toxic circle so that nobody ever leaves this little misery cave. Yeah, no, I recognize that. That's depression. I've been there. I've seen that. A lot of people don't know how to deal with that, and so therefore they find coping mechanisms. And for the incels, it's hating women because they feel like those are the people who are responsible for their horrible lot in life. For me, it was alcohol. But the difference is that I realized that the coping mechanism didn't fix the problem, and that I would eventually need to try something else. And that brings us to the other part of the incel problem. The literal recovery. I guess that's the best way to put it. I have seen so many of these posts of people trying to, or who have left that whole community. People who have left that one and others that share kind of a similar identity. I read their posts and I see what they basically said, and a lot of these, they're not the kind of posts that you would expect from someone who was like, I recovered from like alcoholism, so it's like, I learned from my mistakes, I did things better. There may still be slip-ups, there are times that I do things that aren't great, but that's life when you're recovering. That's life when you have, mental illness. You're not going to be perfect, but you learn how to deal with it. A lot of the recovery posts I see from incels towards their own community, it's a lot of anger. It's a lot of fuck you guys for making me this way. It's a lot of like, you didn't actually help me, you didn't fucking care, you people were only interested in, satiating your own sadness, and there's no learning from the comments. And I don't mean that about the people recovering. They obviously have already learned. They pulled themselves out, they're doing better. It's the other people. They don't learn anything. They just fire back with vitriol and then start circle jerking about how much they hate the guy who actually made it out. And for those, I doubt that you're listening to this, but for those incels who actually have made it out, I'm happy for you, man. That's great. You don't deserve to live in misery like that. No one does. That's fucking toxic and terrible, and it's just all bad. You don't deserve that. Nobody deserves that. And the sooner we're all able to basically accept that it's not bad to ask for help, the better. I made a gesture and slapped the fuck out of the table. I'm sorry. That's what that bang was. Ow. So much for me being dramatic. Yeah, my point still stands, though. Don't be afraid to ask for help when you need help, and don't be afraid to seek help so that you can feel better. Sometimes you can't handle things on your own. I really thought I could always handle my depression by myself, and that just was not true. It got to a point where I really did need people to help me, and I really did need to take time out and figure out stuff for recovery. That's part of it, man. And there's no shame in that. Life is a really, really big thing. Sometimes you can't tackle it by yourself, and that's okay. So, basically this turned from discussing incel mentality to me basically telling people who get out of inceldom that it's fine that they do, and then I'm happy for them. And you know what? I'm happy with that. I'm better with that. And I'm proud of you if you did. If you got out of that community and you're feeling better about yourself and you're feeling like, there is hope. There is like a thing in the future. There is a post, completely off topic, that I read in a green text about someone bettering their life, and I'm literally looking it up right now because I kind of want to touch on some of the points from it, but where the hell is it? Yeah, it's like a motivation thing, where they basically decided to do all the things that are the opposite of what the incel forums told them. They decided to listen to advice, and they weren't happy with their weight, so they started going to the gym, and they went to like the hairdresser and got like new clothes and contacts instead of glasses, and did all this stuff to kind of change the way that they look. And in the end, the person writing the post, because it's anonymous, it says like, I know I don't look like a 10 out of 10, and I never will, but when I look in the mirror, I see a person that I like. In the past, my mirrored image and my life disgusted me. I'm proud of this person. I don't know who they are, but I'm happy for them. You don't, and he even states, like, I don't have a girlfriend, though, and it's like, but you don't need that to validate you. You don't need another person in your life to validate your existence. You gotta love yourself first. And I know that there are a lot of incels who are just like, oh, love yourself first, that doesn't do anything. It's like, yeah, but okay. Let me ask you this. Do you love yourself right now? Because I've read your posts, and I know that you don't. I've read your comments, and I know that you're full of self-loathing and hatred, and you hate everything about yourself. So, I guess my only question is, why don't you try it? If it's really so easy to disprove, if it's really so easy to just ignore this idea of coming to terms with liking yourself and changing the things you can and accepting the things that you can't and being happy with who you are, and that won't change you, that you'll still be just as much of a bitter, angry, vicious incel, then I'll believe you. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I mean, I could tell you from experience. I went through all this shit with depression, and I couldn't stand myself. And you don't get validation from sexual encounters with people. I had a lot of really horrible exes. That didn't make me feel like a better person. That made me feel worse. So, that doesn't really change it. The only person who can really change you is you. And that's not going to happen until you at least try. This podcast got really fucking serious right near the end, didn't it, kids? I'm sorry about that. I promise that the next ones will be more funny, haha. But I really wanted to record this for you guys since it's running really fucking late. But I love you all so very much. And I would like to point out a few things before we end this. I will try to do another podcast coming up soon. Or maybe a live stream. Honestly, I'm not sure. I have to figure it out. Well, maybe a live stream. I mean, it'll be a Monday, but whatever. Point is, today is the 19th. It's going to be the 20th soon. And in a few more days, your Uncle Moonhorse gets a little bit older. Yeah, my birthday's coming up. It's on the 23rd of September. And I am planning to do something. I honestly don't know what. I wish I could tell you that I had some big plan set up. I don't. I really don't. I didn't think about it. I'm just kind of rolling with whatever happens, you know. There's a possibility Sango and I might do something. We may do a very late stream, or maybe we'll make a video, or I don't know. But we'll figure something out, and that'll be there. I also want to address a few things specifically about my stuff. One, the channel has recently cleared 2,200 subscribers. Thank you all so fucking much for that. That is incredible. I remember the days when I had like less than 5. It is so fucking amazing that you guys are here, and I love you all so very, very fucking much. This is so awesome. You guys make me happy every day. I also want to... I'm sorry, my eye itches. I had to scratch. Okay. You know when your eye itches, you have to make that weird face so that whenever you talk or something like that? Yeah, that's what was happening. Sorry. Anywho, I also want to say, like, I recently ordered some of the buttons from the merch shop because I wanted to see how they look for myself. I do that. I'm a loser. I have my own t-shirts, whatever. They actually look really good, so if you want some, I totally endorse them. They actually came out really fucking cool. I think they're pretty funny. So, but aside from that, yes, there is new stuff in the merch shop. There's new designs. There's all kinds of stuff. And I'll be adding more stuff probably whenever I can. Secondly, I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there about the merch shop. Everything in there, as well as everything else, is done by the amazing artists who have contributed their art. If for some reason you want to contribute some of your art to make like merch shop stuff, you can do that, but just be aware that I can't pay you because I really don't make that much money. But if for some reason you want to do that for exposure and just be like, I drew that, I would appreciate it, and you just get in touch with me because I'll talk to anybody. It doesn't matter. Not saying you have to, and if you're not okay with that, don't worry about it. Nothing about, it's not that bad. Not worried about it. Everybody just be cool. That's all that matters. You already are cool, so I guess that makes this, moot, but whatever. Also, I have a Patreon. I have weird goals on there because Patreon made me set up goals. A bunch of them are really stupid. But if you'd like to see your name on live streams and stuff, you can donate to Patreon, and that'll happen. The higher tier that you donate per month, the more stuff happens. So, again, they're all kind of dumb, but, Patreon made me do it because they're like, you gotta have tiers. And it's like, okay, but, I mean... I'm like an idiot, right? So, that's the thing. Also, speaking of really stupid things, and I guess I should post this somewhere, because I was told every YouTuber, not every YouTuber, but a lot of YouTubers are doing this, where they make an Amazon wish list, and people can buy stuff on the wish list, and it gets sent to them, and I guess you can send a note or whatever to be like, I bought this. Anything that comes in on that will be in the mailbag videos, obviously. But I will warn you, I don't have it posted too many places, but I guess I could post it somewhere. I will warn you, my Amazon wishlist is full of stupid things. because I like stupid things. I think it's funny. So just be aware that it's going to be like, wow, what the fuck? But also, if you would like to send me stuff, the address is in the description of this video. Why did I say description like that? Description. It's in description. I have no idea what the fuck's going on with my voice tonight. It is down there, and anything you send me will be in the mailbag videos, unless you don't want it to, in which case all you gotta do is tell me. And I'll try to get to them as soon as I can. I think that's all the business stuff I have to say. It's, I know business stuff, not fun, right? And it keeps this channel afloat, so I appreciate it. And I appreciate all of you. I don't really know what else to say here. I'm running out of fucking words, which is rare for me, because, I can talk a lot. But I do love that you guys are here, and I love spending every one of these podcasts with you, because I think they're super, super fun and super funny, and I like these as well as reading your stories. That's the other thing. If you want to send me stories, that was the part I was forgetting. I have a subreddit at r/Moonhorse Stories, and you can send them there. There's also a Discord, and that should also be in the description. There are links to a bunch of shit down there. You should really look at it. It's kind of weird. It's like, look how fucked up it is. It's full of shit. It's not shit. I put it there. Anywho, I love you all, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you for joining me, and hopefully we'll be doing more of these podcasts soon. Okay, goodbye!